Hey guys, today I'm at the beach in Florida and I decided to do a question and answer video for all of you. So many of you have been asking me questions on YouTube, on Instagram, about the MAC team, about things that are going to be happening next year, about what I'm doing over the summer. So I went to Instagram, created a post, and all of you left some amazing questions down at the bottom. So I'm excited to be able to answer those for you. And if you weren't able to get your question and answer, I'm so sorry, but I will be planning to do more of these over the summer. So be sure to keep a lookout and to follow me on Instagram and make sure that you're keeping up to date with my vlogs on YouTube. So let's go ahead and let's dive in to some of the questions. If you see me looking down, I apologize because the questions are here and I have to look at those. So I think one of the very big first questions that I got on Instagram was, what are MAC classes? So MAC stands for Multi-Age Classroom. I am one of the teachers that is taking the lead on having a multi-age classroom within my school district. And more specifically in my actual school. So it's myself, my partner teacher that I had this previous year, and another teacher who was on my vertical team. So all three of us got together and said, wouldn't this be really, really cool to do this? And with some changes that were happening like in our district, and they had to move some teachers because they ended up rezoning, we kind of looked at each other. We were in this meeting and we kind of looked at each other and we said, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Is this really going to be a possibility right now? So automatically we started saying, okay, let's do this. Let's go. Let's create a plan. Let's try to, create a presentation to show to our principal. We already knew that our principal was already thinking somewhere along those lines because we are very customized in my district. We really focus in on the individual student versus looking at like, how are we going to do small groups? And then how are we going to do whole groups? We don't look at that. We look at the individual child and really focus in on what is it that they specifically need and how can we make this instruction specific for them, not only with where they are academically, but what are their needs, what are their interests, how do they like to do things. So we take all of those things into consideration when we're planning. And the MAC class would kind of take it to the next level for us. So MAC classes are just multi-age classroom. We're going to have a range of 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students. We have a total of 75 students in our classroom, with a little more heavy on the 4th and 5th this year than we are on the 6th. But next year we're going to have those exact same students every year. So we're not going to be rotating students every year. The group that we have now is the group that we're going to have as they're kind of going through their way through their time with us at our school. So for example, if they start 4th grade with us, they're going to have 4th, 5th, and 6th. If they're starting 5th grade with us this year, they're going to have us for 5th and they're going to have us for 6th. If they're starting 6th grade with us this year, they're only going to have us for 6th because then they go over to the middle school. So once we kind of have 3 years under our belt, then that means that we're going to have all of those students for 3 years, which will be really fun and interesting because I know for me, I have the hardest time at the very end of the year to be able to say goodbye to my students. And this is that awesome opportunity for me to be like, nope, you're not leaving me. I'm going to keep you forever and ever and ever. So we're very, very excited about it. Okay, so this next one, I kind of cheated and I took it off of YouTube, mainly because I saw this comment on YouTube and I thought I really wanted to answer this specifically. So that's where I got the idea of doing this question and answer video. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and hopefully she has like a few questions in there and hopefully I can answer all of them. So here's what it says. Hi, I have some questions about your class next year. Do all of the incoming 4th, 5th, and 6th graders become a part of your MAC team, or do you have a portion of those graders, of those grades? So I get a portion of those grades. There are roughly about 750 students within our school, so we can't have all of those students, unfortunately. So we get a mixture of them, and we have right now 25 4th graders, 25 5th graders, and then we're going to have, I think, 17 or 18 6th graders just because of the numbers that decided to opt in. This was an opt-in program, so this wasn't a program that we're just going to throw your kid into it. We held an informational meeting night for parents to come and kind of hear what it was all about. And the parents got to sign a form saying, yes, I want to opt in and see if my child will be able to get accepted into this program. So with all of that considering, we only get a small portion of them. Another question she had is, will you be teaching all of the different ages the same material or split them up by age or group? So examples will be houses be separated by grade level. We're actually going to be mixing them all up, specifically because here's kind of the idea behind it. Somewhere somebody a long time ago said, you know what, if you are this age, then this is what you need to be learning, and this is how you need to be learning it. And if you're this age, you're going to be doing this stuff. Well, we know that as teachers that that's not actually what we get when they come into our classrooms. We get kids who are all over the place. We get kids who are on a 6th grade level. We get kids who are on a 2nd and a 1st grade reading level. We get kids that are everywhere because developmentally, that's where they are. That's where they need to be. We have to take into consideration, the economic status, what were their social needs, were their emotional needs being met. A lot of those things take into play whenever you're looking at where a child is developmentally. And not every child is going to have the exact same parent, the exact same setup, the exact same routines. So everybody is a little bit different. But when you look at some of the kids that we're going to be getting, we're going to have kids who are all the way from like a 2nd grade, 1st grade level to a 6th, 7th, 8th grade level, depending on where they are. I know that when we were looking at some of the math things, we have up to the highest, I think, is 5th grade. So a lot of our 6th graders are needing some more of that 4th and 5th grade material. Well, if I'm teaching some 6th graders 4th and 5th grade material, why am I not just combining them with those 4th and 5th graders that need that exact same material? Who says that I have to keep them separate just because of their age? Just because of their age, that doesn't make sense. If you look at your faculty that you have in your classrooms, are you separated by your age? You're not. You're all in there mixed together. You have some older people, you have some younger people, you have some, mid-between people, like everybody's mixed up, and you have to learn to be able to work with those people. So it's the same idea here, is that they have to be able to work with those other kids who have different ages, but they're all working on the exact same skill. It's saying, you know what, it doesn't matter what age you are. If this is where you are and this is what you need, this is what you're going to be learning. So we're going to mix them all up. All right, so another question she had is, and what are the benefits you foresee from teaching the students this way? Well, research has already shown that in a multi-age classroom, that 2nd year that they're in there, they're actually going to grow a year and a half more than what they would be if they were switching into a traditional room with a different teacher. Because think about it, I already know these kids. I already know their learning styles. I can already pick up right where we left off, and we can continue it. They know me. They know my teaching style. They know how the routines and the procedures are going to happen in my classroom, and I can really focus in on that. So that's kind of the goals that we're wanting to achieve here. And there are other little factors that are going to come into play too, that is going to make it a little bit more real life, more real world. I can never say that appropriately. Real world. And that's kind of what we're wanting to achieve. So we do see some really great benefits, and I think the biggest benefits that we see is that we already know who these students are. We already know where they are. We already know what they're learning. We already know how they learn. We already know what works best for them. We know if they have anxiety. We know when they need to have space. We know when they have like these anger things where they just need to walk away for a little bit. We understand that, and we can just keep pushing forward with that versus them having to meet this whole new teacher, having to go through all of these new things that you waste probably a good 2 or 3 months before you can really get in some good instruction. Well, I don't see that I'm going to have to waste that time once I've had a good year under my belt with them, because then the next year all I have to do is really train those new incoming 4th graders, which I'm going to have 5th and 6th graders that are going to be able to show them the ways within the classroom, versus me having to do everything. You have these 5th and 6th grade leaders who are going to really help these 4th grade students when they're coming into our school and into our classroom. That was really it. And she ended it with saying, I know that's a lot, but I'm really interested in learning more about the MAC teaching style and the vision for your class. Thanks. You're very welcome. I hope I was able to answer your question all the way. The next question I got off of Instagram was, since you are part of the MAC team and classroom next year, how will you address individual student needs since your kids are in different grades and ability levels? So I think I already answered that just a little bit with the last question that I had, but we're really going to be focusing in, and I have a few different methods that I'm going to be showing you guys over the summer of how I'm going to be able to keep track of where they are. So we're really going to have to look at 3 different curriculums, and in some cases we may need to go all the way back into, you know, 3rd and 2nd and 1st grade curriculum. But once we have that set up, once we have that actual foundation, then we're going to be able to really look at where they are, how are they learning, and we're going to be able to pull those into the groups. So if you were to look at some of my vlogs from this year, and I was talking to you about how I run my small groups, there were some groups that I had that were probably about 5 kids. There were some groups that had 14 or 16 or 17 kids because they were all working on the exact same skill. I don't need to have, if they're on different reading levels, that's fine. I can give them a different reading level. But if we're all focusing on the exact same skills, even though we're on different reading levels, I can still pull them for one group. But then I'm going to give each of them a different text so that they can individually look at that text on their reading level, but they're still participating with me when it comes to an actual skill that we're learning. So that's kind of how we're going to be looking at it, is more on skill based. Like, where are you as far as your skills? As far as reading level goes, that's something else that we're going to work on individually. We're going to have some time with individual conferences that we're going to be pulling. So what's beautiful is that it's not just me. And I know right now I'm the only one that's sitting here in front of you and like talking to you about this MAC team. But I have 3 other women that are going to be with me who are going to be, you know, kind of doing everything along with me. So I'm not the only one. Yes, there are 3 main teachers, but we're also going to have a push-in teacher, which is going to be phenomenal for us because then we have extra hands. But we're going to have lots of people who are going to be working on lots of different things. So while I may be teaching something that may be a 2nd grade, you know, level where we're just focusing on being able to, you know, tell a story within sequence, I may have my other teacher who is over there working in a group with a group of students who are working on skills as far as analyzing the characters and the emotions and how does that setting really affect those characters in the long run. So everybody's going to be working on a little bit something different, but then what's beautiful is then I'm going to be able to go back out and get to know some of those other students who I haven't had the chance to have in my group time. So that's kind of how we're going to structure it and start to work as far as making sure that we're meeting everybody's individual needs. So the next question says, what were the initial reactions from the students and the parents when you presented the idea of having a MAC team? So we got like a variety of reactions. I remember when my partner teacher and I specifically sat down and we had the letter in our hand and we were about to give it out to our students because we couldn't say anything until we actually were handing out the letters to go home, explaining about the MAC team for the next year and, you know, asking them to sign up. When we sat down and we were telling them about this, we had 2 different emotions. We had one emotion that they were so excited. And then you had kids in my class who, I mean, children who would like kept crying to me saying, we don't want to leave you. We don't want to leave you. Who were like, because they don't really understand and they don't like the idea of having a mix of 4th, 5th, and 6th graders because of the age difference. And yes, there are some things that are happening to, you know, socially and emotionally, that type of thing that are going that we're going to have to kind of make sure that we are approaching very delicately over the years. But there were also some that were all gung-ho for it because of also how we're going to be structuring everything else. And I'll be getting into a little bit more about that because I think there's a question in there about how we're going to go about a day. But how we're going to be structuring everything, that some of them were like, this is amazing. I wish that I had this when I was younger. Why isn't all teachers doing this? Why can't they do this? And then there were some kids that just really did not like the idea of, you know, being with other kids who were older or younger than them. And that's totally okay. And that's what we told our kids too. We said, you know what, this may be for you and this may be something that you may not want to do. And that's totally okay. You need to do what is actually best for you and not worry that you want to be with us, because it's not about being with the teachers, with us as teachers. It's about making sure that you're doing something that is right for you as a learner, as in your career of, you know, education. So what are you going to do that's right for you? And we got the same reaction from parents. You know, we had some parents who were, you know, diehard, love us as teachers, but they didn't really like the idea of having their kids mixed in with 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And then there were some, again, parents that were just so amazed by the entire program that they just kind of went in for it. So it was either a yes or a no. That was kind of it. So we got kind of both sides of of the spectrum. There were not much of the in between. Either you like it or you don't like it. It's hot. All right, so the next question is, what are you most excited for? I'm most excited about teaching all of the subjects. I'm most excited about, that's a really hard question because I'm most excited about teaching all the subjects. I'm most excited about having some of my kids that I had last year this year. I'm most excited about working with the team that I actually have. There are just so many different things that I am really excited about and excited about doing that it is hard to put them into few words. I have an amazing group that I'm going to be working with that I would not change them for the world. I have an amazing group of kids that I am so excited to be like working with. And then we have this curriculum that I'm excited to start kind of digging into, teaching math and teaching science and really taking it to the next level. Whereas while I did really love kindergarten and I loved being able to teach everything in kindergarten, I think I'm a little bit more excited about teaching them in this grade because of what they're able and capable of doing and the level of thinking that some of them are able and capable of doing. That it just, I'm excited to see what are the possibilities that are going to be happening and some of the ideas that we're going to be kind of implementing this year or within the next few years. I'm really excited to see how it goes and how it ends up working out and the excitement that I get from the kids. I'm already seeing a little bit of that excitement from parents as parents are finding out a little bit more and more about the curriculum itself, but I'm even more excited to see about how are the kids going to react to this. It's going to be hard, absolutely, it's going to be very hard, but I'm really excited to see them be hands-on and really taking charge of their own learning. So I have lots of different things that I'm excited about. I think I'm excited about the whole thing in general. We'll see how it goes once I start getting in there over the next few weeks, once I start diving into all of the curriculum that I have to look at. All right, so the next question I have is, what is morning meeting going to look like for us? So we have a group of 75 students, and we're actually in my room that I am currently in that I've had this past year. I am not switching my room, but my room is going to be looking a little bit different than what it has this past year because my room is going to be completely emptied out. We're going to kind of deck the halls and make it look really awesome as far as what our theme is going to be. But for the most part, there's not going to be any furniture. I think the only furniture that we have there is just a round table, and this is going to be a place for us as teachers for when we're having our breaks and things like that, or when we're working on curriculum or meetings that we can be working together in that area. So the room is going to be totally empty, and the idea is that the students are going to be coming in and they're going to be sitting into their houses. So we have 4 different corners that they're going to sit in. Each house will have a designated corner, and those kids are going to gather within those areas. We're going to have the same thing that we always have. We're going to have a whiteboard message that the kids are going to be able to go and answer. We're going to have a morning meeting message that they're going to be able to read in the morning to kind of get an idea of what is it that we're going to be working on and what is it, how we want our brains to start thinking for the day. And then we're going to have house leaders that are going to take roll for us. They're going to collect papers for us. They're going to make sure that the lunch boxes are put in. All of that good stuff. House leaders are going to do it, not the teachers. So the house leaders are going to do that. Kids are going to get started on their morning work that they usually have, and typically it's just kind of getting started on some type of a target. So we'll have some different things that they can work on in the mornings. And then from there, we put them into a huge circle, and y'all, we did do this. It did actually work. It is a little tight at the beginning, but we're going to tweak some things and move some things around a little bit, and we're going to make it work. So the kids are going to be seated in their houses within their areas, and they are going to sit in a normal circle. We may do some activities with only houses. We may end up doing some activities all together, but we're still going to have a morning meeting, and it's going to look pretty much the exact same thing as what it looked like this year, minus we're going to have about another 20 kids inside of that room. So that's really the only difference that we're going to see this year, but for the most part, it's going to be the exact same thing. We're going to be in my room that's not going to have any furniture, which is going to give us a lot of that ability to be able to move and to be able to kind of group them into their houses and to also be able to group them into a large circle. So the next question I have says, how will you vlog next year while keeping your MAC team's identities private, or will they join you at times? Will you have to be an expert on all 75 students or just children at a certain level? So for the first part, I am still going to vlog. Again, I have some amazing women that I work with, and they totally understand what it is that I do and why I do it. So they very much so respect that, and I'm going to have the ability to be able to work in any of the 3 rooms that we're going to have, because we're going to have 3 rooms total. So I'll be able to work in any of those 3 rooms, and then I get there really, really early in the mornings, y'all. Like, they're not even there. They don't get there probably until about 15, maybe 20 minutes before 8 o'clock, and I'm usually there about 6:15 in the morning. So I have that availability to be able to kind of get there, do some vlogging beforehand. And typically, like towards this very end of this last year, I wasn't able to do a lot of vlogging like during my 2 break times. So I did a lot of it towards the very end of the day, which worked out perfect too. So I think I'm going to just continue to do it, and I'm going to tweak things the way I need to tweak things as far as my weekly vlogs are going to go. But I am still going to vlog because they are very respectful of that. As far as them wanting to join in, that is totally up to them. I am not sure if they want to do that or if they are wanting to put their face out there, but that's up to them. I'm going to leave that up to them and let them be able to, you know, make that choice by themselves, but I am definitely not going to force them to do that in any way, shape, or form. For the next question was I'm going to need to be an expert on all 75 students. So it's going to be really hard at the very beginning to be an expert at 75 students, but my hope and my dream is that by the 3 years that they have been with me, that I will have been an expert in them. So I'm going to be able to group them, and then I may have one group in reading, and then I may not have those groups in math, but then I may have a different group in math, so that I'm going to have the availability to be able to see students, you know, from all the different grades throughout the year. And then what's also great is if I see them in reading for small groups, then I may not see them for their individual conferences. I may be working with individual conferences with other students just to kind of get to know them as readers and to be able to have that time with them. So during those individual conferences, I'm not working with the kids that I have typically in my small group area. So I'm getting to know kids that I have in my small group area. I'm getting to know kids that I have in individual conferences, and then the kids that I have in math. And then I'm going to be working with them in writing and in science and social studies. So I may be able to kind of see them and get to know them in different parts, and then over the 3 years be able to kind of switch it around, and maybe I have them for math 1 year, and then I end up having them for reading the next year, so that I can get to know them as a reader. But the hope and dream is that by the 3 years I will be able to get to know them as an expert. So the next question is, what is your schedule going to look like? I don't really have my schedule right now, but we have hopes and dreams as far as what our schedule we want it to look like. So here's what it's going to be. The kids will come in. They start arriving at 8:40 is when our bell rings. So the kids will start coming in. They're going to go into my room, which is the big room that's not going to have any furniture. They're going to sit down within their house corners, and they're going to start working on their morning work like a normal day. Once we do that, we may end up having some type of a morning meeting. Well, we are going to have a morning meeting. Sorry, that's not what I meant. But we're going to have some type of a morning meeting. And then from there, we could have a mini lesson, or we might just start breaking out into small groups right away. We haven't quite figured that part out yet, but I promise you guys, as soon as I have the full-blown schedule, I will let you know how I'm going to have my day go. So the idea is after a morning meeting, we may have a mini lesson, or we may break out into our groups. Once we break out into our groups, we're going to split into 2 different rooms. So there will be 2 teachers in each room, and then 2 small groups are running in each of those rooms. Now the rooms are a little bit bigger, which is going to be nice than my room. So there is this extra space. I think it's about an extra 3 or 4 feet that's into this room, which is phenomenal because it works out perfect for us. So we're going to have it split between these 2 rooms, and the kids are going to be working on reading. We're going to have a reading block, a writing block, a science and social studies, and a math. But here's the thing, y'all, is that we're going to do a lot of integration. So where we may spend a lot more time in one area for writing, we may not spend that time for writing in that big area in the next day, because we may be doing a little bit more with that science or that social studies unit aspect of it to really kind of dig deeper into it. And then we're going to incorporate that reading and writing throughout it. So we're still going to have like the skill lessons, but once it comes into like the writings, the science and the social studies, we're going to be incorporating a lot of that writing, a lot of that reading into that science and social studies. So you're going to see a lot of integration next year, a lot of project-based learning, a lot of inquiry-based happening within the classrooms, which I'm so excited about. But I'm also excited about having a little bit more of that block time. Because one of the things that I actually really did miss this year was with my kids having their own schedule and them actually being able to kind of work at their own pace, which was phenomenal, and I loved it. But it was really hard that whereas sometimes I may send them off in a group, and as a group I may say, I want you to start working with your partner on this. Well, I have this extra time. It was a little bit difficult to kind of go around my room and just kind of sit down with a reader and kind of check down with some kids and say, hey, what are you reading? I wanted you to tell me about it a little bit. So that made it a little bit difficult. So we are going to have a reading and a writing and a math block. Unfortunately, we don't know a lot about the times, but you will be able to see that there's going to be a lot of integration that's going to be happening next year. Okay, so the next question is, what materials will you use to teach reading? How will your literacy block look? So the materials that I'm going to use are the exact same materials that I used this year, y'all. I am not fancy. Really, I focus, and I think the biggest thing with it is making sure that I have really good literature. The other thing is I want to make sure that I'm giving them opportunities to have like anchor charts. So what kind of anchor charts? What are the graphic organizers that we're going to be using? But then we're going to do a lot of thinking inside of our journals. I saw this one really cool post where they had like a reader's notebook that was just kind of logging some of the books that they had been reading and kind of, putting pictures and things like that. Well, we're going to do something kind of like that, but we're going to use it with KidBlog. So we're going to have KidBlog happening for sure. We are going to have some sort of a reader's notebook, and then we are going to also have our data binders that are going to be used for reading to help track their 40-book challenge, to help track a lot of their reading levels, those types of things that we're going to be working on. So we're going to still have those. We're also going to have their I can statements, which are going to have their goals inside of them. Some of the different strategies that they're working on for reading are going to be inside of those data binders, which I will go into more data binders later on over the summer, guys, because I don't have them with me. I can't show them all to you. So I'm going to have my data binders, my KidBlog, and a reader's notebook is pretty much all I'm going to have for my reading block. And then I'm going to make sure that I have some really good literature. Guys, I use things from picture books, I use chapter books at times, and I may not even be using the entire chapter book. I may be taking out just a page from the chapter book, copying it, and using that on there. But then I'm also going to be using things from, I know that there's Reading A to Z. I know that there's readworks.org, I think it is, .org. And then there is ELA News. Those are some of the sites that I really enjoy using that I'm going to be incorporating a lot of. But I don't have a ton of materials that I actually use for my actual skill block for reading. It's more focused on let's just sit down and let's have a conversation as readers, because I feel like that's the most important thing. I really want them to be doing a lot of the talking. I want them to be sharing what it is that they're thinking so that they can kind of share it out to other kids, and other kids are kind of picking up on what they're doing, and then they're going to try to start doing that within their own time. So that's kind of all of the things that I use during my literacy block. It's not a lot, it's not fancy, but it works for me. So that's kind of what's important. Another thing for like how does it going to look, I want my kids to read. Study shows that to create a reader, you just need to read. You need to really enjoy reading, and you need to give them the accessibility to a wide range of books. So that's kind of what I want to do. I want my kids to be able to read. I want them to be able to enjoy reading. I don't want to fill their time during reading with a bunch of things that doesn't always relate to it. If I want them to work on writing, then I'm going to have them do that during their writing block. There may be moments where they're responding to a book, but a lot of the time I just want them to be able to read and really enjoy reading and really working on building that stamina as a reader. So that's going to be my main focus next year as far as my literacy block goes. And then really looking at how it can incorporate into some of the things that we're going to be doing with science and social studies. So they'll have some of that integration in there as well. But really just being a reader, having conversations about readers, and really kind of working through their thinking as they're reading using some of those readers' notebooks. I feel like this is a really good question. So here's the question. You mentioned in an older post that your license only allows you to teach 4th grade in PA. Will you have to get your new license? How will this affect your role in the MAC team? So yes, I'm working on adding on to my license. So in Pennsylvania, you have to take a test that is like a bridge test. So it's just the 5th and 6th grade like add-on that I just take, and then I am certified in 5th and 6th grade. So it's not too much of a hard thing. I am currently studying for that, but it doesn't seem too incredibly difficult, but I am going to have to take that license. And once I have that license, I am good to go, and it doesn't really affect my role at all within my team. Okay, so here's the next one, and I like this question. This is a good question. What is your classroom theme? So I'm going to go ahead and unveil my classroom theme to you. So we're going to go based off of books and off of genres. And we say, you know what, books take us lots of different places, right? Books can take us places back in the past. That's kind of that historical fiction piece. Books can take us places in the future that we've never been before, and that's kind of that science fiction piece there. And then books can take us places that we can only see in our dreams, which is that fantasy place. So we're going to have a book with we're going to have classrooms, and each of those 3 classrooms is going to have one of those themes. One of them is going to be historical fiction that's going to have a lot of woods in it. It's going to have metals, and it's going to have maps everywhere, and it's going to be very historical fiction, almost like I think of like Sherlock Holmes, like when you see them and they have all these antique books and they have all of the magnifying glasses and the maps are everywhere. That's kind of what I envision for that room. And the second room is going to be the science fiction room. It's going to be a little bit more clean cut. It's going to have white everywhere. It's going to be very spacey and science related. So a lot of that is going to be incorporated into that room, which is going to be really beautiful in the end of it. And then my room is going to be that fantasy room. It's going to be that place of the dreams. So it's going to be the, you know, the castles and the dragons, and the vines are going to be everywhere. So that's kind of the idea of where each of those themes are going. So we're going to kind of instill that to them, so that when we tell them, it's not going to be like a room that you're going to go to. You're not going to go, hey, you're going to go to Miss Backman's room. There's no rooms. So we're going to say you're going to go to the science fiction room. You're going to go to the historical room. You're going to all meet us over there at the fantasy room. They're going to know exactly what room to go in based on the theme that we have for each of those rooms. We're really, really excited about it, and we've already been planning. Y'all, when we first came up with this MAC team, that was the first thing that we said. We were like, okay, we're not worried about anything else. Right now, we need to worry about what is our theme going to be. So it took us a while, but we all came to a consensus about the books, and it being a place that, you know, it takes us to all of these different places, and that's kind of what we want them to view and really understand that, you know, you can really learn a lot from books. You can learn about math from books. You can learn about science and social studies from books, and then you can have these wonderful places that take you all kinds of these books that can take you all different places, which is really amazing that we want to instill to them. All right, next question. Since you are going to be teaching different subjects this year, are you going to have your students keep one data binder with all the subject data in it, or different binders for each subject? What data information have you found to be the most useful? So that's a fantastic question. They're actually going to have one binder. We decided to go with a 2-inch binder for their data notebooks. What's nice is that we're going to have a combination of both. We're going to have this paper portfolio, which is their binder, but we're also going to have an online data system through Google Classroom for them to be able to graph some of their data that they're collecting over our 3 years that they're with us. But the idea is that it's going to be this portfolio. Think about whenever you go to a job and you take some of your best pieces of work and you show these to these principals so that you can go and get this job, and you're trying to tell them, look at how amazing, look at some of the things that I've done over this time that I have been teaching, or in my time, you know, as a student learning about education. Well, same thing here. You know, we want our students to kind of build some of that. Here are some of the great things that I've done. Look at how I've grown as a learner. Look at where I started here, and look at where I'm going to be ending up. As far as like some of the information that we're going to be collecting, we're going to continue working on the multiplication facts, division facts. We're going to really focus more on the arcane and target statements. So I'm going to be sharing more with you guys about that later on. But I had something that I used on Instagram, and it was just like an emoji map. And it had all of these different targets that the kids had to complete for different units that we had. So we may have had a character traits unit, and the kids had to go through and show that they had mastered certain skills by, you know, saying, you know, I can, you know, identify the character traits. I know what an intrinsic characteristic is. Well, here's how I know it. And they have all this data to be able to show that they do understand that, and they're able to apply that to a variety of text. So that's kind of one of the bigger things that I'm going to put in there. Also, a list of some of their books that they're going to be reading. Their 40-book challenge was another one of my favorites. And then once I start digging a little bit into math and kind of understanding math a little bit more, but I feel like the math is going to have the exact same thing, minus we're going to have a pre-test and a post-test for those as well, for those units. So they're going to have a pre-test, post-test, and they're also going to have certain targets that they will want to show that they have mastered before they're able to go into the next units. But I feel like those have been the bigger things that I want to focus on with my data binders, and I will share more with that later on. Okay, so here's a question that I think I almost answered a little bit up. But it says, how are you going to organize your day and your groups? Are kids going to be assigned into groups based on skill? Who will take what groups? Okay, great question. So we are going to be organizing our day almost similar to what we've had it this year. We had a really big pocket chart, and each pocket chart stood for a different teacher. And then we had different times, and we would just put the kids' names on what times that they would be meeting with us in those groups. So the kids would know exactly what time that they had those groups. We would also have different slots available for students to be able to say, hey, I really need to learn about this. And we can also say, hey, I'm going to be teaching, this one topic. You guys can sign up to this, to go to this mini lesson if you really want to learn more about it. So they can add kind of their names down there, but we're going to use just pocket charts with times and just kind of names, and we're just going to group them around. As far as who's going to be getting what groups right now, we're not really sure of that just yet because we haven't really gotten to get to know all of the students all the way. We do have some of our math groups kind of mapped out, but as far as reading, we don't really have that. I think for the most part at the beginning of the year, I just want to get to know them as a reader and have more individual conferences than what I am going to have small groups. So we're going to dive into a little bit more of that once the year actually gets started. But for the most part, I think we're going to stick with some sort of a pocket chart that we're able to kind of show the list of times, show the list of mini lessons that we're going to be teaching, and who is going to be in some of those groups, and who would also like to sign up for some of the groups that we have available. And then we're also going to have a little time in there to do individual conferences. I know for Fridays for us is going to be more individual conference time day, where we're not going to hold small groups, but it's going to be the opportunity for us to just kind of walk around and really kind of sit down and talk to them as readers and really get to know them one-on-one. All right, so the next question I have is, I was wondering how you convince your administration to support the MAC team. It sounds like such a great opportunity for the kids to explore their interests and for you and your colleagues to grow as teachers and collaborators. Everyone wins in this structure. So true. Now, what's wonderful is that my principal was already thinking this. This was not something that that we had already discussed it, like whenever us as teachers, I think it was one day, literally, we were sitting around in my room. It was after we had conferences with parents, like parent-teacher conferences, and it was the late afternoon. It was probably like 4:30, and we were all in my room. We were like, wouldn't this be awesome if we could just do this? And from there, it was kind of a couple months later that they unveiled that there was going to be some restructuring of the district, so teachers were going to have to move around. And we had this one awkward little vertical team here, and we said, wouldn't this be a great opportunity? So my principal was already thinking it because of where our district is going as far as like education is, with a very individualized structure. This really lends itself to a very individualized teaching. That's kind of what started the whole thinking in the first place, is where my district is headed as far as education. So it wasn't really hard to convince him to do it. Nobody else wanted to do it. We were the only ones who were really gung-ho for it, and he already had it in his head. So it wasn't something that we really had to do a lot of convincing for. All right, this is another great question. How do you keep yourself updated on the student data binders? So here's how I typically do it. And in kindergarten, I did it during their writing time. This time I would do it during their actual reading time. So during the individual conferences is when I would do it. I would have them, take their data binders, bring their reader's notebook, and we would sit down and we would just have this conversation, and we would just fill out their notebook as they're going along, and we would just kind of talk. Now it takes a little bit longer, of course, but it's also a great opportunity for you to have this one-on-one time to really log in that data, ask any questions that they may have, be able to clarify some of those things, and then kind of add on to some of their goals that they have. So I really focus it on that individual conference time. When I was in kindergarten, because I had so many reading groups, that instead of doing groups in writing, I would have like one maybe intervention group that I did in writing in kindergarten, and then that rest of the writing block time I would be pulling kids. So I would be pulling them with their writer's notebook, I'd be pulling them with their reader's notebook and their data binder, and we would sit down and really just have a conversation and kind of graph some of their information there. Also during assessment times, typically when we're having assessment times, I'll just have them bring all their stuff with them, and we'll just sit there and graph it all. And then I had it to where I had certain kids on each day. So I had 5 kids on this day, 4 kids on this day, 5 kids on this day, and I knew exactly what kids I would be working with that day of the week, so that I would be meeting with them at least once a week during that time to be able to look at their data binders. So I had to just be very strategic with how I wanted to do it. I had to look for a block of time that allowed me to be able to sit down with them. Kindergarten, it was writing, and fourth grade, I have to do it during my reading block time during like individual conferences. So that's kind of the way that I do it, and it works best for me that way. It's the only time that I have that block of time. And the way I think about it is, listen, if I'm talking to them as readers and I need to have a Friday where I'm not pulling small groups, then by golly, I'm going to do it because I'm really getting to know them as an individual reader. We're setting up some goals for the next week that we're going to work on so that we can touch base again the next Friday. So that may be a way for you to look at your block is, when can I sit down with them as readers and really get to know them? When is a block or day or a block of time that I feel like it's going to be really perfect for us to be able to kind of sit down together and for me to not pull groups that time so that I can meet with them and then be able to log some of this data in. So look at your schedule, figure out what works best for you. You may end up doing during your writing time or during your reading time, whatever works best. So the next question I have is, I would love to hear more about the 4 houses and how the concept would be used in lower grades, such as first grade, which is what I teach. So the house system is more about them building that community and that little tight-knit family for the houses. They work together as a team. They're doing things together. I even had like one person who I think, and I don't know where it was from, but it was like some type of a blog or something where each house had a little plant. And as a little family, they had to take care of this plant. So they had this little plant inside of their classroom that was for their house, and they had to like grow this plant and take care of it together. So it's really just learning how to work together as collaboratively and to be able to have discussions. But it's also creating some of those leadership roles because we do want to have some of those leadership roles for them to be able to show that, hey, listen, I'm going to kind of take the lead here. I've been working really hard. I've been showing how much I really want this, and now I'm going to take this lead. But it's just creating that collaboration and that work towards each other. And, they're going to have that opportunity to earn points I think we decided every 9 weeks. Every 9 weeks, we're going to have kind of an unveil of who has the most points for the houses. And then whoever has the most points, they're going to be able to get some type of a reward or some type of a prize. And then from there, at the end of the year, we're going to have kind of a collective which house won the most points for the entire year, and they'll have something else that they'll be able to get from it. But it's really just giving them opportunities to work together. I'm going to use a lot of it in morning meeting. I'm going to have them doing a lot of things, as far as checking some of their work together, being able to, have discussions together. If they feel like they're, some of the kids are really struggling in this house, or maybe, I could be, one of the house teachers in that house, because we'll have 4 teachers, 4 houses. So each teacher will be in a house, and it may be my house that I'm working with, and I may be sitting down and saying, hey, this is some things that I'm noticing. Let's kind of talk together as a little bitty group, because it's easier to work in a smaller group than it is to be working as a whole classroom. But then it also may be that, somebody could come up to me in that house and say, hey, I'm noticing this and this is happening. We really need to sit down and just kind of have a discussion together. So it's going to allow opportunities for tutoring. It's going to allow opportunities for leadership. It's going to allow opportunities for them to grow as, collaborators, and to be able to really work together to be able to try to and have this, big goal of teamwork. I mean, that's kind of the idea of it. It's just building teamwork. So I don't have all of the little pieces kind of planned out so far. I just have a really good idea of how I want it to go. So I'm going to keep working on that. And as kind of the summer goes on, I will be sharing more of how I'm going to be doing things with houses. So please make sure that you're watching the vlog so that you can get more information on those. Okay, another question that is a really good one, I feel like. Does your husband work from home, and how do you guys make the balance of both working while raising a family work? So my husband does have this wonderful opportunity to be able to work from home, which allows me to be able to do some of the things that I do as far as with YouTube and as far as with, my teaching and being able to get to work really early in the morning. And then he is able to kind of be flexible with some of his schedule. But y'all, let me tell you, it is not a one-person thing. Whenever you are in a partnership with someone, you are both working towards something. So he is my rock, my everything, because he pushes me, he supports me, he is there when I am feeling really down about certain things. He is there when I am, really excited to do something and I really want to try to do something. Sometimes he has to pull the reins a little bit because I get a little bit too excited, and then I just want to jump in it without thinking about it. So he's that person that kind of manages me and helps me through so much. But he helps me with everything. He will help me as far as, reminding me, hey, did you go and answer YouTube comments? Did you go and do this? He'll even do some of the editing for me. If I'm really, really stressed out, please do not think that I am the sole person that has to do this. Y'all, I have 2 kids, okay? I have 2 kids, I have a job, I have 2 jobs, really, because YouTube is considered another job in and of itself. It's a lot of work when you really have to sit down and think about it. But I have, you know, the YouTube business on the side over here. I have my school that I worry about. I have 2 kids. I have a husband that I need to take care of, a home that I need to take care of. So there's a lot of things that I am trying to do all at once, and I am not doing it all by myself. So please don't think that I am. You know, there may be times where I may tell my husband, hey, can you please just edit this video for me? I just am really, really stressed out between report cards, between this and that. I just need some help for a minute. And he will totally do it that night for me because he knows me and he knows my style and he knows what I like. So he will do that for me. So we work as a partnership in this, and he supports me to the fullest, which is why I married him in the first place, because he is that kind and amazing person where he just wants to help me be and do what is it that I love to do, which is really big. So he does work from home, and he does end up helping me a lot, especially with the kids and such. So yes, I have a wonderful, wonderful husband, and I promise you I would not have been able to do it. Now, I will say that after teaching this year, I have learned to not bring as much work from school home. So I have learned to just keep some of that schoolwork at school, and there may be times where I do have to end up bringing some things home, which is okay, but I'll also make my husband do some of the things. Like if I say, hey, I really need this cut out, laminated and cut out, he will totally laminate and cut things out for me. So we will sit in front of the TV and we will laminate and cut things out together. And so I will bring some things at home, but then I will also remember, you know, I need to have some of this family time. Like right now, y'all, I'm at the beach. I'm supposed to be out having fun, but I know that this is something that I really want to do for my YouTube community, because this is something that you guys really like. You enjoy watching some of these videos, and I enjoy doing these videos for you. I love to be able to talk about education. Education is a passion and a heart of mine, and I want to be able to share some of the knowledge and some of the things that I'm doing in my classroom with all of you, and also at the same time learning from some of the amazing things that you're doing in your classrooms as well. So right now I could be out at the beach on the sand, laying down, relaxing with my kids and my family. But my husband and I both know that this is something that I really want to do. And in order for me to keep doing it, I really need to make sure that I'm pushing and doing it all the time. So he's going to take the kids for a little bit, and then I stayed and I'm going to video for a little bit, and then we're going to stay up and we're going to edit later on tonight, and we're going to do things together, because he is that person that pushes me to do some of those things. So, and then we go back and forth. You know, I will take the kids and he'll do something he'll work on his work for a little while. And so we go back and forth on it. And we have those times where we say, hey, these are our family times. These are the times that we're going to be actually together, and we're going to do things together. But we just learn to kind of create that balance. And it's so important to have somebody, especially, you know, if you are with somebody who's going to help create that balance with you, so that works with you. And it's perfect, and it works out. And, you know, we have our moments where I am really, really stressed out, and I feel like can't do it anymore, but he pushes me through. He helps me to stay positive. He helps to show me how much I really do want this. So I love my husband. So yes, that is kind of how I make it work. I am not perfect by no means, and nor do I try to do it all, because I know that I can't do it all. And if I try to do it all, then I'm going to miss out from the precious moments that I have with my family. So if you guys notice that I don't have a ton of products up, or if you notice that I don't have video out or something's happening, it's because I'm wanting to spend some time with my kids, and I need some time to just kind of stop and just be able to say, these are my babies, and I need to spend time with my babies, because they grow up and then they're not going to want to be with me anymore. So I need to be with them as much as I can now. I have a ton of questions, and this video is probably so long already. I am going to go ahead and just end it with this last one, and this was a YouTube one. So I am so sorry if I was not able to answer your videos, y'all. My voice is starting to crack. I'm starting to get really tired of answering, and it is getting hot up in here because I have to turn the air conditioner off so it doesn't affect the sound. See, there's a lot of things that happen in this whole situation of me trying to video something. So I need to turn the air back on, and plus I want to go out to the beach. So I'm going to answer one more, and this was a YouTube comment that, again, that I just really wanted to answer for her. So it says, first year teacher here. I love your videos. I like the end of the year gift you mentioned for your kids, and did something very similar with my second graders, and they loved it. I don't know if you were doing a Q&A soon, but I had a few questions. Does the whole school have partner team structure? Yes, everybody has a partner. So everybody has like these vertical teams. So there are, I think, 6 or 8 vertical teams. I can't remember exactly what number. 6 or 8 vertical teams. A vertical team consists of 2 4th grade teachers, 2 5th grade teachers, 2 6th grade teachers. And ideally what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to move those kids within that same vertical team. So those kids would be together for all those 3 years that they're with us at our school. And the 2 4th grade teachers, one is an ELA and one is a math and science. So 2 5th grade teachers is the same. One is an ELA, one is a math and science, and same for the 6th grade. So they have team teachers in a vertical team, and then now what they're going to have is a MAC team. So that's going to be us, which is going to be a totally separate, but we're all working together. It's just 3 teachers, how we're going to approach the way that we're teaching a little bit differently. Second question is, what curriculum do you use for each of your subjects? So we don't really have a curriculum. We have almost a math guide as far as like math units, as far as what we need to teach in math. We have standards for math. We have standards for science and social studies that we do have to teach. And then we are working on a reading and writing curriculum this summer. So actually, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this coming week, I'm going to be at a curriculum meeting. So I am part of the curriculum team for my district. We're going to be working on rewriting the curriculum for all of the different grades to be able to put it up. But then what I do is I come back and I just kind of think about how do I want to approach things. And I use this like little notebook where I created different pacing guides of how do I want to approach reading. What are some of the first things that I want to do? Because I'm not going to go in and automatically say, all right, guys, let's talk about text structure. That's not how you approach it. You know, you want to approach it a little bit differently. And I do use a little bit of Lucy Calkins inside of my how I approach some of it. So I use lots of different resources that I pull from a lot of different areas that I've been researching and reading about. So I will create kind of almost like a pacing guide inside of this notebook that says, you know, here's one lesson that I'm going to do, and here's a second and third and fourth and fifth lesson. But now I also know that as a teacher, as a good teacher, I'm also going to pay attention to my students, because if they need a little bit more of something, then I'm going to give that to them. But if they also need a little bit of this, then I'm going to give them that. I'm going to change my curriculum up. So it's not like a set curriculum that I'm going to stick to time and time again. There is a flow to it, of course, because naturally as a reader we flow into a certain book a certain way, you know. So there is definitely a flow to it, but there is not a, you know, here's how we do it, this is what book we're going to do it with, and this is how we're going to do it, because we know that every reader is different. Every child learns differently. Every student likes things that are different. So I have to really pay attention and focus in on my students and really pay attention to how are they learning and what are some of the things that they like to learn to be able to teach some of those skills to them. So I don't really have a set curriculum. I hope that helps. I do have units that I teach. Within those units, I have different learning targets. So I will use a combination of units from Lucy Calkins, learning targets that I like to incorporate into my classroom, along with a flow that I had thought of using some different resources that I really like, as far as like maybe the reading strategies book that I've been using as well, to be able to kind of guide my instruction. I hope that helps. Next question she had was, what activities do you have available for fast finishers? So as far as for fast finishers for reading, I just have them read. I say you go and you enjoy that book. You just enjoy it, get a cozy spot and love it. And they are good with that. As far as in kindergarten, same thing. I had them go back and read, but I had different little areas and stations that they had to do. But I really wanted to instill and really build that stamina for reading. So I had them go out and read. But I also had this little notebook in kindergarten that had different little activities that they could do. It was like roll and reads. They had to find the letters. It was just little different activities, and I'm so sorry that I can't show that to you now, but it's just different activities that they were able to do when they were ready to move on to something. But typically, I never allowed them to be able to finish fast. Does that make sense? Because I tell them, listen, if you're finishing really, really fast, then you're not giving me your best and your most quality work. I want you to go back and I want you to take your time, because I really make sure that when I'm planning things out, that I'm planning them out so that they're having to take their time with it. Because I know, like, generally how fast it should take for certain students to finish things. So for fourth grade, I mean, they just read. I want them to have that ability to read. You know, we don't always need to just chock their day full of, you know, worksheets and assignments and this and that. why not just give them the ability to be able to sit down and read and enjoy reading? As far as for math, you know, they're going to have different activities that they can go to. Maybe there are certain activities that they have to have done, but then after that, they can choose from different activities, maybe like a choice board that they can go and do. So long as they have certain ones finished first, then they can go do their choice board. So doing things like that are kind of creative, that will excite your students to want to do really well. Think about it like that, I guess. So I would definitely, if you're in the upper grades, try to use a choice board, or even in the lower grades, use a choice board. Those are always fun. The kids really enjoy them. And then the next one is, how do you have it set up? And I think you're referring to my fast finishers. So I would just use some type of a choice board. Like you can give them some type of paper that they can stick into a folder. I typically have like a folder for them to be like their catch-all. So it's like work that they're working on. And inside of that folder, they have all of the materials that they have for that week. So if I'm giving them a choice board for that week for maybe reading on one side, math on the other side, then they can put it inside and that's what they can work on during that time. But typically my students know that, hey, if I'm finished with something, I can go and read, I can go and write. I will tell them at the very beginning of the year, guys, if it's reading time, what can we do when we're done? And they'll all be like, read. And I said, you are so smart. And same thing, I'll say, hey, when you're done with this writing assignment and it's writing time, what do you think you should do? Write. Awesome. So they already know what they should be doing. And as far as math goes, I would just have maybe some fun activities that you can put off to the side that can be adaptable to things. So maybe look for some like type of games that you can use. I know like partner games, some of those flash games, memory games, things like that, they can easily change it with what they're focusing on and working on, and then have them go and work on something like that. I am very, very lucky in my district because we have one-to-one iPads. So a lot of the times we'll just say, hey, I want you to go to, you know, front row, go to IXL, go to this, go to that, because then they can be working on that exact same skill that they were working on in our groups in that actual app. So I have a little bit of an advantage on that point, but definitely check out some choice boards, have some different games available to them. And y'all, we don't always need to make things fancier for them. It doesn't need to be a hootenanny every single day. Like literally have them read, have them write. It's going to be fine. They're going to be okay if they have to sit around for another 5 minutes reading and writing. It's what they should be doing is reading and writing. So we don't need to chock full with something that's creative and pretty in a game every single time. It doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be a hootenanny every single day. So think of it that way. Okay, it is sunny outside. We have our very, very last day here in Florida, so we are heading out back to Pennsylvania tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go enjoy the beach. So I hope that you have enjoyed this Q&A. I am so sorry if I was not able to answer your question, but I promise you that I will try to do a Q&A very, very soon, probably within the end of this month. I will look to do another Q&A for you guys. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thumbs ups helps my views, helps send video out to other teachers. So share it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you guys once I'm back in Pennsylvania. Bye!